Shalom, brothers and sisters. Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from Yahuwah the Father and Yahusha our Mashiach, his voice. Hear, O Yasharal. Yahuwah our mighty one is one Yahuwah. This is Brother David coming to you again to bring you the law, statutes, judgments, and commandments of Yahuwah. And we're starting today from Deuteronomy 28. This is part 6 and the final installment. I'm going to ask you to do something that I've never asked before. I've created over 100 videos, and I've never asked people to do this. But this time, if you agree with what you're going to see here today, I want you to share this video. That's how important it is to the awakening of our people. Now, we learned from the last segment that we are considered to be superhumans in the minds of the Europeans. With all of those superhuman abilities, still we're in the lands of our captivity, still we're being treated evil, and still we're on the bottom because we do not have a mighty one. We have forsaken him. If we come back to him, brothers and sisters, all of these things shall change. Let's begin. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 67. In the morning thou wilt say, would God it were even? And at the even thou shalt say, would God it were in the morning? You'll pray to the mighty one. In the morning you'll wish it were evening. In the evening you'll wish it were morning, for the fear of thine heart wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. Watching your people slain by the sword. Watching your children ripped from your arms. Watching your enemies come in like a flood from every direction. Psalms 83. Verse 1 to 8. Verse 1. Keep not thy silence, O mighty one. Hold not thy peace and be not still, O mighty one. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Note, the same enemies that your mighty one has, you have. They hate him also. They hate his name. Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people. He's talking about you now. And consulted against thy hidden ones. Who is hidden? We are just being discovered today. The Jews have been in the forefront for over 1,000 years. He cannot be talking about them. The remnant that is left is hidden. It is you. Verse 4. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. Did that happen? Are we in our sovereign capacity? Do we have our own land? Do we make our own laws? No, we are in the lands of our captivity, not even knowing who we are, that the name of Yasharal may be no more in remembrance. Yasharal has been wiped out. It has the name of your father. They have replaced it with Israel. Verse 5. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are a confederate against thee. They are way more powerful than you can ever imagine. Because they've come together in this confederate, there is a unity here against you. Verse 6, he's going to give us the list. The tabernacle of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gibel, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Verse 8, Assur also is joined with them, They have holpen or helped the children of Lot. Selah. In Bible school, we learn that that word Selah means to pause or think about it. Let's think about this. He just gave us a list of the people who hate him and who hate you. Our brothers did not see the Europeans listed here. So they decided to make Edom the European. Can you do that, brothers and sisters? No, you cannot. Edom and the Ishmaelites are our relatives. Edom is the brother of Jacob, and Ishmael was born of Abraham by the bondwoman Hagar. They have the same blood that we have. Then the rest of them are in the region. All of them are in this so-called place, the Middle East, as they say. But I'm going to tell you the truth. It is Northeast Africa. These are the Islamic nations. They've come together against you. They hate you, and they hate your mighty one. It's time for us to wake up to this one. 1,400 years of black slavery in Islam. Did you know that? 1,000 years before the Europeans came in, the Muslims had a 1,000-year jump on them, but yet we don't talk about it. Black on black crime is never talked about. But if you don't get this in your head, you won't know who the Father is talking about when he's speaking of judgment. We constantly point the finger at the white man. If you noticed in the list that we just read, the white man was not present, but he is listed in separate occasions. During the Islamic slave trade, black men were used for military service and black women for sexual exploitation, using their wombs to bear Muslim children, reports ArabSlaveTrade.com in the article, Denials of Slavery. Slaves were owned in all Islamic societies, both sedentary and nomadic, ranging from Saudi Arabia in the center of North Africa in the west and to what is now Pakistan and Indonesia in the east. Some Islamic states, such as the Ottoman Empire, the Crimean Khanate, and the Sokoto Caliphate, Nigeria, must be termed slave societies because slaves were very important numerically as well as a focus of the polity's energies. Encyclopedia Britannica on slavery. Slavery has been the way of the world for who knows how long, brothers and sisters, thousands of years. You went to war. You lost the war. Your people went captive. That's why it was very important that you stand your ground and fight to the bitter end unless you wanted to be a slave. Well, mostly they would kill the men, take the women and the little children. 140 million victims of the Islamic slave trade. And this is just a low number. However, at least 28 million Africans were enslaved by the Muslims. At least 80% of those captured by the Muslim slave traders were calculated to have died before reaching the slave markets. They lost way more during the transporting of the slaves than actually made it to the lands. They marched through the deserts in the heat without much food and water. Only the strong shall survive. And look at the Arab slave trader and his slave. He's just as melanated as she, isn't he? This is why the Europeans say blacks enslaved blacks. They are telling you the truth. It was the Arabs, the Muslims, who sold us to the Europeans, whether it be of the Hamite tribes or the Israelite tribes that converted to Islam. We are surrounded by enemies. Our enemies are even in our own camp, brothers and sisters. If the Europeans or the Muslims wanted to do something to you, wanted to hurt you, want to enslave you, want to get into your little circle so that they can destroy you, they won't send one of their own people. They will send someone who looks like you. You'll put your guard down. Next thing you know, you'll be dead or enslaved. Pt.6, one of the premier slavers of the time. Who knows how many slaves were brought into the region, to the so-called Middle East and all of the other Arab countries, because of Pt.6. Is he white? No, he isn't. He looks just like we do. And here he is again with some other Muslim slave traders. Look who he's making a pact with now. The Europeans. The whole world has turned against us, brothers and sisters. 1400 years, the Muslims, the Islamic nations, were taking us over into the Eastern nations. Then it turns to the 400-year period. Our book is very precise and perfect. We have to make it around the world to the other nations. Who own the ships? The Europeans. In come the pact between the Muslims. You see how black they are? Not one of them are white, are they? These Muslim slave traders look just like you. They made this pact with the Europeans to trade slaves to them for something that was very important. Guns, firearms. Most likely they told them, they says, Yahudi is in the west coast of Africa. They have large militaries. They are powerful. They are vicious. We can't come against them with swords. We need something more powerful. So the Europeans made a pact. We'll provide you the guns. You provide us the slaves. Once that pact was made, they came into your towns and your villages, and they took you, your women, and your children captive. The Apostle Muhammad said, whoever wants to see Satan, let him take a look at Nabtal B. al-Harith. He was a sturdy black man with long flowing hair, inflamed eyes, and dark ruddy cheeks. The Life of Muhammad, page 243. If Muhammad says this, it is written in stone. If he believes it, every Muslim, every person who is Islamic from the region believes the same thing. They set the template for the Europeans. The Europeans say the same thing about you. That Satan looks like the black man. Where did they get it from? The Islamic nations who sold you to them. Ibn Qutayba, 828 to 889, was a renowned Islamic scholar from Kufa, Iraq. Blacks are ugly and misshapen because they live in a hot country. Wow. Because you live in a hot country, that's it? Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, 980 to 1037 AD, was another celebrated figure in Islamic history. A Hafiz, an Islamic psychologist, scholar, and theologian, and by our lights, a racist. Listen what he said. Blacks are people who are by their very nature slaves. That's what they think about you. Your merchandise, just like here in America, your merchandise, that's all you're good for. You're a slave. The Quran, it's about the Israelites. I don't know if you know this or not. In their Quran, you are listed more than they are. You are the focus of the book. Look, we gave the book, Torah, to the Israelites and bestowed on them wisdom and prophethood. We provided them with wholesome things and exalted them above the nations. Quran Surah 45:17, and they would say this kneeling, and here is the link for you to go to find this. Look at this. Quran 17:4. And we decreed for the children of Israel in the scripture, ye verily will experience corruption, exile in the earth twice. Did you hear that? But ye will then after, thumma, ascend, taluna, to a great height or station. You shall be above all peoples of the earth. Do they know this? Yes, they do. And even though they know this, they teach this. Nasir al-Din al-Tusi, 1201 to 1274, was a Shia Muslim scholar and Grand Ayatollah. The Shias are usually in Iran and the Sunnis are Saudi Arabians, but they're mixed in all around the world. If all types of men are taken from the first and one place after another, like the Negro from Zanzibar in the southernmost countries, the Negro does not differ from an animal in anything except the fact that his hands have been lifted from the earth. In no other peculiarity or property except for what God wished. Do you see that? They know that you transgressed your father's law, that you had to go into captivity. Therefore, it was lawful for them to take you into captivity because you transgressed the law. Many have seen that the ape is more capable of being trained than the Negro and more intelligent. Note, he's saying Negro. He's not saying African. He's not saying Hamite. He's saying Negro, which is a whole different species. He's talking about us. We are the children of Abraham. Some of them are our brothers. They come from Ishmael or they come from Edom. They know that the Father chose you above all people on the earth. Then he gave you the book. They just told you that in their Quran. And instead of taking the book with all of its wisdom and using this knowledge to become the most powerful people on the planet, you dropped the ball. Instead, you went chasing after foolish gods. Therefore, the ape is more capable of being trained than the Negro and far more intelligent. Do you see what they're saying? But they love those ape women, don't they? With those beautiful shapes and those beautiful faces. But the men, the seed is in you. The seed of Yasharal, the seed of the mighty one who planted it in us. They said, we're going to take these women, we're going to rape them. We're going to put the men on the front line in our wars. They're going to have to fight or die. But the ones who we are let back into the camp, we're going to cut off their genitalia. Because if we let these people procreate with these women, their seed will continue to grow. They were here to stop it in its tracks. The Europeans were different. They wanted to make merchandise out of you, so they had no problem with you procreating with the woman because they know that the child that comes from you will still be a slave and it would be their property. Now you see the same thing that the Muslims believe. They got it. The Europeans got it from them. 15th century Arab slave trade. 21st century Saudi Arabia slave trade. Where are they going to get these slaves? Into Africa. Where did the remnant of the children of Yasharal go hiding, whether they're from the northern kingdom or the southern kingdom? Into Africa. Every single time that we fled persecution, where did the patriarchs go? Our Mashiach's parents go? Into Africa. Listen, our people, the children of Yasharal, were concentrated in Africa. Then the whole world came into a confederate with the Muslims. They were 1,000 years before the Europeans came in and started to take you captive. That's how you got around the world. They're trying to empty out the region. And with all of those who were not taken as slaves, do you know what happened with them? They were killed by the sword. Enter El-Shabaab, the newest Islamic group that's in Africa today. They're burning villages, they're raping and killing our women, and then the men, they're taking them as slaves, even today. This thing has not ended. While you're so busy focused on the white man, you've missed the major player. When the Messiah comes, he says he's coming to destroy his enemies. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. I created a video, Edom, to show you who your real enemies are. Anyone who says that they are Islamic and they're black, be careful. Anyone that says that they're a Christian and they're black, be careful. Because they're working for the other group. Have you ever seen The Matrix? And Morpheus was telling Keanu Reeves, he says, anyone who is in the Matrix is your potential enemy. Why? Because they are so into this Matrix. They've taken the side of Christianity or Islam that they'll do anything to protect it. Be careful. Cast not thy pearls to the swine, lest they turn and tear you to pieces. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 13 to 15. Verse 13. And the word of Yahuwah came unto me the second time, saying, What seest thou? And I said, I see a seething pot, and the face thereof is towards the north. In comes the Europeans. Verse 14. Then Yahuwah said unto me, Out of the north an evil shall break forth upon all the inhabitants of the land, not just the children of Yasharal, but everyone who was in the region. Verse 15. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, saith Yahuwah, and they shall come, and they shall set every one his throne at the entering of the gates of Jerusalem, and against all the walls thereof round about, and against all the cities of Yahudah. Here's your Europeans. This is where they came in, not in Psalms 83, brothers and sisters. I am a history buff. When I wanted to go and seek even more higher education, my bishop told me, he said, David, don't do it. He said, these people don't know anything. He said, study history. History will tell you the story and link it with the book. I did that. That's why I can see the sequence, just like it's a movie playing out in my head. Alexander the Great came in first. He conquered, he destroyed, he set up his thrones. The Romans came in next. They conquered, they destroyed, they set up their thrones. They destroyed the temple of Herod the Great. At that time, our Mashiach said, when you see the abomination of desolation set up into the temple, he told them, you better start fleeing into the wilderness. Where did they flee to? Anytime the patriarchs were in trouble, they went into Africa. Our Mashiach, his parents, when Herod was seeking their life, they went into Africa. Over 1 million of us went into Africa and further down into Saudi Arabia, all the way to the southernmost parts, where the people are still there today. Now, the Father told us he was going to have us to flee into the wilderness, where we should be fed for 1,260 years. Then comes the Muslims first, converting with the sword. After 1,000 years of that, here comes the Europeans again. This time they brought ships. Verse 68. And Yahuwah shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. You see the word again? This is a second time. He's going to bring you into the house of bondage. This time with ships. Who's going to bring us? Yahuwah. By the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. This is it. After this time, the ones who are gravitating back towards Yahuwah will keep his commandments. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies. Did he say he's going to sell you to your friends? You cannot embrace these people, marry these people, join with these people, because they're your enemies. For bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Hold it 1 second. In order to be a bondman, you have to owe a debt. We don't owe any debt to the Europeans. So why are they saying bondmen? Who brought you into the house of bondage with ships? Look on the top again. And Yahuwah shall bring thee into the house of bondage again with ships. You owe him a debt. You have transgressed his law. You see the last part, and no man shall buy you? There is a law in the book for the kinsman, redeemer. Only one who is closest to you, a family member, bloodline only, can redeem you. If you go into bondage, if you owe a debt, they can come and purchase you back. Enter the same person who sent you into the house of bondage in ships also sent you your kinsman redeemer, whose name is Yahusha. He paid the price for you, brothers and sisters. He gave his blood so that you can come out of this captivity, so that that spirit can come down upon you, and you will awaken and keep these commandments. Strong's Concordance, 3050. The name is Yah. Look at the definition on the top, the name of the God of Israel. Yah is the name of the mighty one of Yasharal. They're telling you this right here. Not theirs. Only the children of Yasharal. How do we know that they're saying this? Because they've replaced Yah with Jesus. That's their God. Then when they try to describe the Father, they'll call him Jehovah. Does that sound like Yah at all to you? Look at the definition on the bottom. The name of the God of Israel. That's tell you twice. He has nothing to do with them. He is your mighty one. They do not call upon him. They do not pray to him. They do not sacrifice to him. They have another God. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 10. I'm building a case here. Please pay close attention. And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. Note, Lord is a replacement for the actual name of your mighty one. Everyone is afraid of you because you are called by his name. Now, we just learned in the Strong's Concordance the name of the Lord, Yah. The whole world shall see that you have been called by the name of Yah, and they shall be afraid of you. That's why they took out Yah Sharol, and they put in Israel. Did they know what your name was when they came to get you? The Islamic nations knew. They told the Christians, and the Christians knew. The Jews knew who you were. They documented it. They are afraid of you because they know that you will get the kingdom if you return back to Yahuwah. Let's see if we can find those who are called by his name. Now, this is slavevoyages.org. When you go to this site, on the right-hand side, it's going to say names. Click on names. Then on the left-hand side, it's going to have a box for you to put the name in. Put Yah in there. Then you scroll down to the bottom, and you're going to see it wants you to check boxes. Man, woman, boy, girl. You're going to check all of the boxes. Then click search. This is what's going to come up. Now, what I found in my search, that this list only comes from 1800s to 1840s. They didn't have this accounting before. But by the 1800s, they started to account for all of the slaves because of the stock market was introduced, and you were such a high commodity that they had to keep accurate records. And because they kept accurate records in the 1800s, now we have a view into the people that they brought over here in ships and their real names, the names before it was changed to the European names. Let me just read a few to you. Na-ya Moli, Enya, Yahu, Akiya, Hanya, Beneya, Tayaho, Kuya, Hagaya, Bunya, Kardaya, Yarya, Barbanya, Yafe, Daya, if my people who are called by my name, if they will only humble themselves and pray, and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will they hear from heaven, I'll forgive their sins and heal the land. It's obvious we didn't do that. Before the Muslims came in to get us, we were serving voodoo. That was our religion, witchcraft. Then the Muslims came in. Then we became Islamic. They converted by the sword, brothers and sisters, and still kept you as slaves. Then the Europeans came in and they fed you this Christianity, and they kept you as slaves now for 400 years, and you've converted to Christianity. But your true origin is Hebraism. You are an Israelite, a Yasharalite. Even the name Yasharalite, that's the name of our patriarch. That's Jacob's name. The father changed it to Yasharal. It is incredible, brothers and sisters, that the information now is coming out from all directions. All you have to do is look. If you were to go and start to look for information concerning you and how you were brought here in ships and the name of the people, this is what's going to come up. When I'm out in the streets and I'm witnessing to people and I'm trying to bring them to the realizations of the name of the Mighty One, the first thing that I do is I ask them, I say, hey, what is the highest praise, especially if they're a person that comes from the church? And they'll tell me, oh yeah, hallelujah. I say, you know, hallelujah means praise. All praise be to. And then I said, what is the name at the end? And they say, Yah. I said, you see that? The highest praise is going to who? Yah. Not Jesus, not Jehovah. How did they get inserted into your book? The Europeans. They don't believe in your God. That's why they said before, Yah is the God of Yasharal. He's not their God. Christianity has nothing to do with him. Islam has nothing to do with him. Voodoo has nothing to do with him. Look who brought you here. The synagogue of Satan. The Jews. Do you guys see that everyone had a hand in this? All of the Muslim nations, all of the European nations, and the Jews. The same people who cry anti-Semitism, same people who cry Holocaust, were responsible for bringing you over here in ships. Do you see how accurate your book is? Everybody hates you, and everybody hates your Mighty One. Let me tell you about the Jews. I've been around them for a long time. My business was right in the heart of the Jewish community. I conversed with all of the ones with the curls for years, Avi, and I mean, there's so many different ones. And we were very close. We would sit down and talk because I was a Christian student and they were Talmudic students. And we would sit down and talk. And I would find all of these little jewels. The things that they would say to me never added up. I wanted to know who was this remnant that the Father was speaking about that would be hidden, that no one would know who they are, because you guys, I mean, everyone knows who you are. So who is this remnant? Where are they located? No one could answer those questions. But years and years of research, brothers and sisters, I found out that it was you and I that were brought here in ships by the same people who say that they are you. Now do you see why I say that they're cuckoo birds? If you watch the cuckoo bird video, if you haven't, go to YouTube, pull up cuckoo bird and watch them. They will evict you out of your nest and take on your identity and be fed by the whole world. Is that happening today? Yes. Because we transgress the Father's law. We forfeited our rights. Even though all of these nations have come together in a confederate against us to destroy us, we still can't point the finger at them. It's because of us. We have to stop being so stiff-necked and unmovable. Gravitate back towards Yahuwah. Keep his laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments. And their time is up. This mass deportation of slaves has never happened before in the history of this planet. Can the Jews say that they were taken around the world in ships to every single country and region of the world, to the four corners of the earth? Can they say that that happened to them? Do you know what they can say? We participated in taking the true Hebrew Israelites around the world in ships. But yet nobody knows about these things. Oh, Brother David, what you're saying is anti-Semitic. We need to grow up. You cannot be anti-Semitic. The word is Shemitic, not Semitic. Those people, 92% of them have Japhetic blood. That's what they say from their DNA profiles. The Africans have Hamitic blood. Everyone else from the East, Shemitic blood. To be an anti-Shemitic person against them, you must be against the ones who are in the regions who come from the line of Shem. They don't come from the line of Shem. It is impossible for anyone to be anti-Shemitic against those Jews. But you want to hear what anti-Shemitism is? What they do against the African Americans and all the ones who have been taken around the world in ships, their practices of evil, that's anti-Shemitism, and it is against us. Wake up, brothers and sisters. Every time they speak that rhetoric, we need to be saying, you're anti-Shemitic. They'll probably say, what? But it's true. You are the people of the book. Now that you know who owns these ships, this is Amistad. This is a picture of Amistad. This is the Zong ship when they started throwing the slaves overboard. Who owned the insurance companies that insured these slaves? Because that's what they were doing. They were collecting the insurance. The Jews. Who owned the stock market? The Jews. Who were the people who were the auctioneers and the primary traders? The Jews. Who owned the biggest plantations in the islands? The Jews. And Yahuwah shall bring thee into the house of bondage a second time with ships. This is the most courageous mother I've ever seen. Look what's happening in the background. They would be on these ships for at least 2-3 months. They had to defecate in the same spot where they lay, eat, and defecate in the same place. Look what's happening to the brother, how he's getting whipped. They say that's the only way to keep these monkeys in line. The sister has probably been raped, who knows, every night a different man. She said enough is enough. I cannot have my children to die and to suffer this cruelty. I would rather drown them myself. Why is it that everyone wants our promises if we return? But they don't want to suffer these judgments. If you didn't suffer all of these judgments, because this is a DNA thing, this is a bloodline thing, that's why it came down to us, even though we weren't there or we didn't even know. If you didn't suffer these judgments and these curses, how do you think that you can be privy to the promises? Now it says that we're going to have a yoke of iron around our neck until we be destroyed. There's a new thing out today that we say that we are free. Look what happens when you set the Israelites who are destroyed. Look what happens when you set them free. The ladies start to dance over fire with their butts. Do you see why they look down on us? And they say we're crazy. In the clubs, we carry on this licentious, lustful, libidinous behavior. Look at his face. They're basically having sex on the dance floor. Look at the young lady in the background, smiling. We are destroyed. This is also in the dance hall. Why is she laying here on the ground with her legs spread wide open? In the dance hall, in the club. Because Superman is going to jump off a ladder and land in her crotch and start humping like an animal. The things that they have said about us, now that we're destroyed, we're carrying them out. This is the end of Deuteronomy 28. I thought that I should give you, I know it's been lengthy, but if you want to get to the bottom of things, you have to go line by line, precept by precept, here a little, there a little. I know a lot of us, we have a short attention span. We're not really into knowledge, but if you're not really into knowledge, you're going to be in trouble. You need to learn everything you can so that you can't be fooled again. We're going to continue with Deuteronomy chapter 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, because now we've been carried away. We've been destroyed. We're totally messed up. We're lost, just like the Muslims say we are. Now let's see how to regain our sovereign capacity, how to turn back to Yahuwah. we're going to see something. Who the Mashiach was truly sent to. Continue to chapter 29. Shalom.